Watch this video to see what a Band 7 student has in terms of characteristics. Hello Julia, thanks for joining us on the video. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I've just graduated in medicine, and right now I'm preparing myself for a test to become a specialized doctor. And for me, English is very important because all the new discoveries in medicine are written in English. So for me, it's fundamental to have a good knowledge of this language.
What about hobbies? What do you do in your spare time?
I don't have too much spare time at the moment because I'm trying to work and study at the same time. But when I'm free, I would like to dedicate some time to myself. So I like to read. I like to watch TV, read newspaper. But my favorite thing is to spend time with my friends. Just go out with them and have dinner together, sharing opinion and this sort of things.
What about sport? Do you do any sport?
Well, I used to dance till 3 or 4 years ago, but then I need to stop because my studying was too demanding. So right now I simply go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week.
So what do you do at the weekends?
During the weekend, I usually study English in the morning on Sunday. There's the day dedicated to this. And in Sunday, I usually go out. So I like to running a bit or walking in the nature. I have a pretty park near my house. So I really like enjoying being outdoor.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks very much. So as you can see, there are 4 different criteria on this page, color-coded, because in my opinion, whenever you're doing speaking, you need to bear in mind how you're being engaged, how you're being assessed in the exam. Only by knowing the system, you can get higher marks. So there's fluency and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical variety and accuracy, and pronunciation. There are some notes underneath that I've made myself. They're just to remind me of what I'm looking for, but they're not necessarily mandatory, or you may have a different list altogether, so that's just perfectly fine. So let's get into the transcript of the conversation, which is over here. She starts by answering my question about herself. And she uses the present perfect there, which is good, which is correct grammar and correct use of grammar. And then she uses slightly odd expression, which is I'm preparing myself, which is over here. I'm preparing myself. It's a bit odd. Probably getting ready would be a more appropriate one for a test to become a specialized doctor. And for me, she says it's very important. English, it's very important. I think this is a mistake, and she should be careful about using an extra subject here. English is really a subject. You don't need to say it's. And then she goes on to talk about medicine, and she uses a passive, which once again is a good thing. All in all, this answer is pretty cohesive. Her pronunciation was fairly accurate most of the time. Her grammar was good, and she would get 7.5 here. Moving on to the next question about hobbies. Here she makes a few more mistakes than the answer before. She says, I don't have too much time, too much spare time. She doesn't need to say too much. I think she would be better off by saying, I don't have enough spare time because I'm trying to work. Now she pronounced it like the word walk, which was a bit confusing, so she needs to work on that. And study at the same time, but when I'm free, I would like. Now here she should have said, I like to dedicate some time to myself. Otherwise we are talking about what we want to do, not what the question is asking. Talk about your hobbies. So she should be careful about using like and would like correctly. And by getting this right, she won't be penalized in the exam. Again, she talks about liking, so I like to read, she says, which is an over-reliance on the word like itself. She should be using other words like, I enjoy reading, I'm really fond of reading, or, whatever she wants to say, whichever way she wants to say it. She pronounces the word read over here, read newspapers, as read in the past tense, and this to me shows that there's a bit of a pattern of grammar mistakes slipping in every now and then. It's not just one, either there are a few, and in my opinion, she should do some controlled speaking practice to make sure that these don't occur, or at least don't occur as with the same frequency as they do now. She talks about sharing opinions, and the correct expression here would be exchanging opinions. So this is an improved version of the speaking, and this would get her 8 or 8.5. As you can see, there are lots of greens because I've added collocations, phrasal verbs, emphasis, and concessive clauses. So this tells you what was missing in her speech. It goes like this. I like reading, or I'm an avid reader, which is a collocation. I'm into thrillers and fantasy, and when I get home from work, or from college rather, I can't wait to dive into, and then there's a phrasal verb there, dive into, my favorite book. Newspapers are also an interest to me. This is a nice way of saying I like to read newspapers. I often browse through, which means to read newspapers to catch up with, phrasal verb there, to catch up with whatever is going on around the world. However, but, or having said that, though, which is a concessive clause, evenings out with my friends are by far the most desirable thing. That's an advanced level of comparison. We do the small talk, that's an expression, and we catch up or over a warm meal, which is a collocation, warm meal. And that's what I like best, that's emphasis. So the next question was about sport. Do you do any sport? She replies by saying she used to dance, which is again very good because she's using the past tense used to talk about something that she doesn't do anymore. But then there again she makes another grammar mistake. I need to stop, and then my studying was too demanding. A good word here, but studies rather than studying. So right now, and this is fine. So this was quite a complete and cohesive reply because it started from the past and it talks about the present. It didn't need any work in terms of improvement. So the next question was about the weekends. What do you do at the weekends? She said, she talked about Sundays. So she talked about her weekend and got mixed up with the days, I think. She said, I usually study English in the morning, which was fine. On Sunday, I think she meant Saturday. That's the day dedicated to this. Okay, fair enough. It's a bit loose as a structure. So in terms of cohesion only, she would be losing marks here. And she says, instead of on Sunday, I usually go out, so I like to running a bit. So there was a word missing here, and bit was a bit obscure in the nature. Then she says, I have a pretty park. I think a beautiful park would be a more natural choice in this case. And then being outdoor instead of being outdoors. I came up with an improved version, which again is bound to get her higher than 8. It depends really. Saturday mornings are set aside, a collocation, for English training. In the afternoon, however, I put my feet up, which is an expression, and take a break, collocation, from the hustle and bustle, which is an idiomatic expression of the week, which means from the work of the week. My life can be extremely intense, which is an adverb-adjective combination. So that is a much needed break. That is a compound adjective. Much needed would be a compound adjective. If I lived in the hills, I'd definitely go trekking. Use of second conditional, but that's out of the question. On Sundays, I'm a bit more rested, so I'll venture out, which is a phrasal verb, to the parks. If I'm feeling refreshed, then I'll even go running. That's the first conditional. Sadly, though, that is a concessive clause. Sundays are never nearly as long as Mondays. So that is a comparative. And before you know it, they're gone. And that was that. I hope you found the assessment useful.
Here we go.